Okay guys, let's do this.
What? Goddamn, get it done, will ya? Woo! When the blow up now, everybody's so unusual with it. Shit. But said times in his rhymes, cause his memories. We running through New York, so
Okay guys, so as you'll see here today, the video title is why you should never remap your BMW engine. And I'm gonna explain to you why that is. Now, if you don't know, behind me is the M57 engine, which is the diesel engine. The reason I'm using this engine is this is a major engine that everybody buys for the remaps. And this is why I'm using this over your naturally aspirated engines. But what I'm gonna say here is gonna apply for a lot of the engines. And therefore, I hope this actually helps a lot of you guys. Now, this is just my opinion on remaps and what they do and what I've seen them do. I've worked in many garages. I know many garages. I speak to a load of people who work in garages who see this on a daily occurrence, and especially on the later model M2s, M4s, and it's still happening today, why you shouldn't remap these cars. So I'm gonna go over and I'm gonna explain to you why that is and why you shouldn't do that. So if you can see along here, we've got the M57 engine. This engine is known for putting out a lot of power. A lot of people, even still today, buy this engine because of what it's capable of after a remap. Not just a remap, a lot of people are aware when you blank off the EGR, you remap it, you change the turbo, this engine can make serious torque. Now, let's speak commonly about the X5 on the E53 and the E39s, because they are prone to this failure. A lot of people were buying these, remapping them, and if anyone knows, E39, well, it never got the gearbox changed, but E39 and E53 had a serious issue with the gearbox. They were already at the maximum torque, which people still don't want to believe still today, which was the case. And a lot of people seem to think it's wrong, which is not wrong. I've worked in many garages to know the torque on what them gearboxes can handle, and BMW put them at the most they could, and that's the reason why they never gave it any more. People would go and remap them engines, later to find out the gearbox would grenade, and that was purely because they had remapped the engine. Not only that, when you remap an engine, you're doubling up the timing. So what you're then going to end up doing is speeding up the timing, so the injector, rail, the fuel pressure, to compensate for obviously the advancement of speed that they're going to be doing on the remap. For instance, they're going to have to put more PSI from the turbo as well, equals more boost, because obviously if it's a diesel or any kind of turbocharge, they have to compensate the pressure of the turbo towards the fuel and air mixture inside the engine as well. Now, a lot of the time, many of you guys realize, and this isn't me, a lot of you guys already know from having a remap, you will never have any issue. You will then go and get a remap and you will end up with tons of issues that you never had before. Now, being this is the M57, these engines don't suffer a lot of issues. Timing chain failures, injector failures, look at what you see a lot of the time. The majority of that is because people have remapped it and they don't want to admit it. They want to then make out the engine's unreliable. These engines are not unreliable. I've seen these on 300 to 400,000 miles, sometimes even 500,000. When I was in Cyprus, the army was using these and they were on 500, 550,000 on original timing chain. This is people who are irresponsible and don't understand the long-term effects of doing a remap. Because a lot of people only know about modifications. They buy this engine because of what it's rated to, and what people overhype it to be from a remap. But if I'm honest with you, I have the majority of the people for this engine on my channel. Every single one that has a remap has an issue with that engine, and that's why they're there. And a lot of you guys don't believe me, but if you go and look at my EGR removal, a lot of them don't have a clue. Most of them are asking me when they remove it if you have to map out the email, like you do indeed. But these people don't have a clue. They're just looking to get as much power from this engine because that's what they want it for. If they knew anything about this engine, they would know these engines run perfect without the need for a remap. I have people all the time try and tell me about remapping this engine, and I tell them it's never going to happen, purely because I know later down the line what's going to happen. Now, you might not believe me, but let me tell you what's happening now. I've got my friends in garages right now. You're getting people remapping, trying to take their M2s and M4s to stage 2. it's blowing the engine to pieces. They end up having to rebuild the whole engine, and these people are getting rid of them because they can't get the power they want from them, and then they're calling them unreliable because or a piece of crap because they can't remap the engine. It's not a piece of crap. BMW put them at the full power. If they thought it could be more, they would have given more. But the main reason they don't give more, and I'll tell you a load of you guys this, is because if they gave you all the power now, you wouldn't buy a newer model. A newer model needs better pistons, com rods, rod bearings, bigger crankshaft, all the upgrades of what your engine can't do. For instance, remapping this M57, the moment you remap that, realistically, this should have the internals changed. This can't run on the standard internals. And let me be frank with you, there is nobody, and I know for 100% there is nobody that can actually come here and tell me on their M57, they've made it to 190,000 miles, 180,000 miles without a gearbox issue, without their injectors failing, or without needing to do a turbo. And it's the God's honest truth. I can tell you that right now because it's impossible. Because when you remap it, it causes more stress on the components. It causes the components to wear faster compared to the natural wear. Where if you leave them to wear naturally, they wear after 200, 250,000 miles, which is what they're designed to do. And that's if you look after it properly. Obviously, letting the turbo heat up and cool down properly after using it, doing all necessary checks, doing your maintenance on it, then the engine will be reliable. A lot of these people that are buying these to remap it don't have a clue about the car in the first place. They don't even know how to change the oil. They're buying it for the performance, and then when it goes wrong, then want to call it unreliable because they followed other people by remapping the engine. Now, there's a lot of people that will show you how to remap an engine. There's a lot of people that will tell you to remap these engines. Same for the M47, M57, N57, you know, N47, all of them. That's what people mostly buy the diesels for. They don't buy them like they did back in the day just because, you know, they were good workhorses or they're more reliable. People bought them for the power now. But these people don't have a clue about what they're actually doing to the engine and what long-term effects it's going to put on you guys who go and remap your engine. If you're buying this to save money, doing a remap is going to make you spend double the amount on this engine than what you wanted to, and that was the whole reason you built this engine. I know from working in garages, every person used to come in and we used to see that they were remap. Now, let me tell you, when we used to work in BMW, I was working on these engines and we got enough of these in. Now, probably many of you guys know, one, it was the warranty. Two, we could always tell. We would get some owners, even still today, I get it all the time, people with an M57 engine on 60, 70K, and their injectors are already gone. I asked the first question, and many of you who watch my M57 videos will know, I've probably asked all of you, have you had it remapped? And the moment I ask that, most of you say yes. And that's your answer straight away. That's why your injectors have failed straight away, because these engines don't do that. This car's approaching 100K still on original injectors. It's all about you. Obviously, it's gonna wear the engine out a lot faster remapping it, and that's why I strongly disagree with remaps. It destroys the engines and makes it very, very expensive to maintain this engine. Now, it don't bother me. This is cheap for me to maintain. Remapping it doesn't bother me. I could easily do that as well, but do I want to? No, I don't have to. That's the problem. If many of you guys are looking for more power, BMW built M cars for that. They didn't build a diesel for you to go and buy to get more power. And this is what a lot of people are getting confused with. They make an M3, an M5, M6s, M4s, M2s for that reason. You don't go and buy an M57 because you want more power to try and make it into something it's not. And then you're the one sitting there without your car or blowing up or destroying it because you're trying to force more power out of something that you can't get. If BMW thought they could do that, they would have done it from day one. They don't limit the power for no reason, because if that was the case, they wouldn't be making more power at every new model. But that's the whole point. They want you to buy the newer model. You ain't gonna ever have a fast enough car to keep up with the models of today. There's no point trying to remap it and think you're gonna get there. You're gonna spend more money than it's worth trying to get there. Would I upgrade the turbo on this? No, I wouldn't. The only one I'm gonna do a turbo upgrade on is my M2. Would I do anything on this? No. It's my daily running car, it's a workhorse. That's what it's there for. If I want a fast car, I've got my M5. I don't need to settle for an M57 engine to make the power that I want. But a lot of people do. A lot of people go and buy the 330 diesel. You know, they're very cheap to buy and they make good power just standardly without the need of a remap. But people can't help themselves because they see it. They see someone with that and then they want it. But don't realise the long-term effects of what it's going to do to their engine. Like I say, I've worked in garages. My friends own garages and they would all tell you the same thing. Remapping an engine is bad. for any engine, and anyone will tell you that. Any person who's experienced enough will tell you a remap is a bad thing. It's not a good thing, especially with BMW. And then a lot of people call BMW unreliable. They say these parts fail, that fails, that fails. No, it don't all fail. The remap made it fail. That's what it is. And do you know what? There is no good tuners that know what they're doing these days to make the engine not go over its threshold, not only not go over its threshold, to make the parts still wear at best with the engine and the performance. There is nobody that can do that. Most people just throw a remap on. There's a lot of people that go and get a remap and 2 days later their engine starts messing up. You know, there's a lot of people, and then, you know, a lot of the time that's because the part was already out, but just by putting extra strain on it, it's failed a lot quicker. But the majority of people, they end up finding that their car has failed dramatically after the remap. For instance, you shouldn't never have to remove the valve cover on the M57 engine. It shouldn't need to be done because these don't leak oil. But obviously if your injectors fail or your turbo fails, the valve cover has to come off and it has to be changed. Now that's a big job on itself. A lot of the time when I used to work in the garages, and I still get friends today asking me to come down and help them remove their injectors because I got the extraction kit, which a lot of them don't have. They will seize in there from soot and carbon deposits and you can't get them out. And sometimes they'll even break off inside the valve cover itself. Now, that isn't a good thing. And it's very, very hard of a job to actually get them out, especially if they're carboned up in there. I've told many, many people when it happens, you know, it's a big job. And to be honest, this is why it's not worth a remap to go through that expense. You know, it causes a lot more carbon because obviously you're forcing more diesel into the engine, especially with a remap. And also you're causing more carbon deposits in your engine than needed. Don't think the EGR itself by blanking that's going to stop that. It doesn't stop that. You know, diesel is very dirty. You don't know how the engine was looked after before you. Nobody knows anything. And by you doing a remap could cause major stress. That's why a lot of you, as I said, are having timing chain problems on this engine. That's my take on why you shouldn't remap these engines. They are powerful just on loan. And bearing in mind, this is a 2006 model, so it's got the more reliable ZF 6HP26 gearbox. A lot of you guys will go out and buy the cheaper models, 2003, 2001, and then you'll see the gearbox just grenade, which, sorry, I'm not gonna sit here and say you don't deserve it. You do. If you remap the car, you're gonna deserve it. You shouldn't be remapping it. And if that's what you're buying it for, you shouldn't be buying a BM full stop. If you want a fast car, you know, we've got M5s, M3s, AMGs, you've got everything here you need. Don't buy a diesel trying to make it into a performance car, which is not. This is a daily workhorse for towing, getting around, and for good fuel economy, if you need it, which I don't buy it because I need the good fuel economy. I buy it because of its reliability, reliable and solid units, and that's why I've got a diesel. But a remap should not be done. And to be honest with you, I know a lot of you are going to ask me about the M52, M54, all this and that. To be honest, I feel the same about them as well, naturally aspirated engine. You guys know me, I've always been against remaps, and you all know how I feel about it. You've all seen from previous videos. Okay, so as you've seen there, just explained to you about why you shouldn't remap your M57 engine. As I told you, this is still happening today on the newer BMW engines. People are going out remapping them, their M2s, their M4s, trying to go for a stage 2 and then blowing the engine. Then you know what these people are doing? My friends are telling me in the garage, they're making them pay to rebuild the engine and getting rid of the car straight away because they can't get the power they want from the car. Because what a lot of people do is buy these cars and they're trying to make them into the power of the newer model without having to buy the newer model. Unfortunately, BMW weren't stupid when they built these cars. They're not going to allow you to remap to get the power like a newer model from an older model. They're not stupid enough to do that. And while you're trying to do that, all you're doing is actually destroying your car. And the amount of money you're going to spend repairing it, you could just go and buy a new one anyway. So it doesn't make sense to actually sit there trying to remap to get something that you're never going to get out of. You'd be better just to go and buy the model you want or the newer model and get the power you want, or find another car that is faster. It doesn't have to be BMW. There's many other cars out there, many other manufacturers that build cars a lot faster. So thank you very much for watching. It's BMW Dr. Dean here, and goodbye.